They say it's all about rights, but rights can't fix a wrong that we do to God each day. How long can we stand strong? And all I got is one question left. If we turn our backs and spit in his face, is God still gonna bless the USA?
Halloween reminds us that the paranormal is growing in followers and interest. Seems like everybody likes a good ghost story. In 2017, End Times magazine reported that there were over 200,000 registered witches in the United States and many more that are not registered. The famous witch Sybil Leek, who now resides in Melbourne Beach, Florida, told the New York Times that there are over 8 million witches in the world today. Some time ago, the Salvation Army was sued, meaning they had violated a woman's constitutional rights when they fired her for being a witch. The employee had used the agency's copy machine to reproduce satanic rituals. She sued and was awarded by a federal judge $1.25 million compensation for embarrassment, humiliation, pain, and suffering. Greetings, Patriots. I'm Perry Greene. Welcome to our God in America podcast. Considering the day, I thought of one of the most frightening accounts in African history from the late 1890s. The event was popularized by the movie Ghost and the Darkness, starring Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer. The story took place in what is now Kenya. The British decided to lay 660 miles of railroad tracks from the port city of Mombasa to Lake Victoria, the head of the Nile River. Once completed, they would secure a trade route that would avoid sailing around the hazardous Cape of Good Hope. The Crown sent the engineer, Colonel John Henry Patterson, to lay track and build a bridge at Savo. He arrived in March 1898 with 2,000 Maasai tribesmen and 1,000 laborers from India, some of whom were skilled stonemasons. He set out to complete the task. Immediately after Patterson's arrival, 2 of his workers mysteriously disappeared in the night. At midnight the following evening, one of the Indian officers was attacked by a lion and dragged from his tent. For the next 9 months, 2 of the male lions freely fed on 135 of the railroad workers until Colonel Patterson was able to entrap and execute them. The story has been verified as accurate, though the numbers have been questioned. While the carnivorous episodes unfolded, the natives believed this was a paranormal event, that the lions were supernaturally empowered to punish the people for their sins. There are symbolic applications for us from this account as we engage in a genuine supernatural spiritual war between good and evil. We have an unseen enemy that attacks us in the darkness to steal, kill, and destroy us. One of the most chilling descriptions of our common enemy is that of a lion. Peter gives us a clear warning in 1 Peter 5, verses 8 and 9. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. Resist him firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. At first, the African and Indian workers were unaware of and unprepared for the lion's assaults. The great Chinese general Sun Tzu gave us an important lesson in strategy, one that Satan and his minions also employ. He said the greatest victory is that which requires no battle. Most people on earth are unaware that there is a war for their souls happening at this very moment. The adversary has convinced them that he is a myth or a benevolent spirit. As a result, thousands of people ignore their spiritual lives or practice witchcraft and other occult rituals worldwide. He won without a fight. Colonel Patterson and his men prepared to track and kill the lions. They were sober and awake to the reality of the ghostly attacks. In the end, despite the lions' abilities to kill by stealth, the men with superior weapons defeated them. In our current spiritual engagement, we must be awake and aware of the realities of the battle. Satan is not a myth, but one of the fallen members of the Lord's divine council who wants to usurp his authority and destroy mankind, God's image-bearing creation. Neither is the devil weak nor merciful. He is God's and our sworn enemy. Paul writes this, "Besides this, you know the time, that the hour has come for you to wake from sleep, for salvation is nearer to us now than when we first believed. The night is far gone, the day is at hand, so then let us cast off the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. Colonel Patterson was able to kill the adversarial lions with skill and proper weapons. We're in a long term fight that God will ultimately bring to a swift conclusion. In the meantime, we declare our loyalty and fight with Him using the spiritual weapons Paul describes in Ephesians 6. God told the rebellious entities of the divine council, "You are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men, you shall die and fall like any prince." Psalm 82, verses 6 and 7. Satan knows he cannot defeat God. Christ's resurrection was the knockout punch that clinched his victory over evil. All that is left is for the enemy to delay the end by distorting the gospel and removing the urgency of salvation from men. Our ancestors were better in touch with the reality of this spiritual war than we are. When Pastor John Robert Hunt and the Jamestown colonists arrived in Virginia, he prayed knowing that God's enemy was present. Here's what he said: "Almighty God, we beseech thee to bless us and this plantation which we and our nation have begun in thy fear and for thy glory. And seeing, Lord, the highest end of our plantation here is to set up the standard and display the banner of Jesus Christ, even here where Satan's throne is. Lord, let our labor be blessed in laboring for the conversion of the heathen." Well, thanks for being with us. Please like, share, follow, and subscribe to our podcast. To share in our work, please donate at godinamerica.com. That's the word God, the letter N, America.com. So as we close, let's keep the light of God in the darkness burning.